Hey guys, we'll get started in just a second. Sorry for being late. I had some technical difficulties that prevented me from starting on time and prevent me from using the camera that I wanted to use. So just give me a second here. I'm inviting some people to the session. Hey Deborah, hey August. So unfortunately, I had some technical difficulties with my camera. This is, high tech for you, so high technology. Things rarely work consistently or the way that we want them to. So it's no real surprise. I had a microphone break on me on Monday. Now that's being shipped back. And so hopefully I'll get a replacement for that soon. And then my camera is acting up. It won't sync with the Facebook Live. It works with everything else, but it doesn't work with Facebook Live, or it works occasionally. So anyway, that prevented me from starting on time. Everything looked great, and then the minute I said go live, everything went to hell. So, this is just, it's not surprising. This is just kind of the way things are with high-tech stuff. Low-tech, we've had it around for a long time. We pretty much know the parameters. High-tech stuff, this tends to be it. I think that's why they call it the bleeding edge, right? It's just sort of very painful. All right, so we got 4 of you here. Welcome. Carol Sue, welcome. Barb, good to see you guys. Maybe more will be joining us, I don't know. But we're going to do a mini Yin Yoga session, so hopefully that shows up on your end. I'm not sure what you guys see or what it announces. So again, we're kind of back to basics using the laptop camera, which I don't prefer, and the sound is just coming from the laptop, so it's not going to be as high quality. Give me 1 second now. Some people are writing me asking about the class, so I'm going to go ahead and just let them know. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Again, if you think someone can benefit from this, go ahead and start a watch party or share it on your page. This is going to be a brief Yin Yoga sequence. So a student wrote me last week and was asking if there were any shorter sessions, and that inspired me to create this series. So hopefully we'll be able to do these in the coming weeks. Just shorter, 35, 40-minute sessions. So when we don't have that longer period of time to practice, it's very tempting to just say, well, I won't do it. But I don't think that's such a good idea. And in my own life, I very often have to fit my practice in where I can. I don't often have the luxury of, I'm going to go take a 75-minute class, or I'm going to go take an hour-long class or 90-minute class. Okay, that's just the reality that we live in. We can keep dreaming about having hours and hours and hours to practice yoga every day. It's just probably not going to happen for us. So do we drop yoga completely, or do we say, okay, I'm going to use the time that I have? All right, so let's get right into our session. If any questions come up, put them in the chat. Hopefully I'll see them, but it is a little difficult to read from where I am. So we're going to focus on the spine here. I'm going to give you some options, and then I will try and talk a little bit more about the implications of the different options that you have. But try and choose one. I'm going to start the timer, and then I'll talk about props and options. Okay? So try and choose the best one for you, and then let's go from there. And if you need more instruction, I'll be giving it as we hold the pose. So most basic choice is this. This is called butterfly. Again, this is a spine series, so we're trying to stretch the back of the spine. Next option for the more flexible student, legs straight, folding forward. Again, relaxed. Avoid this Okay, we're not trying to pull or yank ourselves down. Nice and relaxed, coming forward like that. Again, stretching the back of the spine, a little more intense. Final choice, coming up onto your back. Okay, shrugging those shoulders under. This is the snail pose in Yin. I can do it like this. I can bend my knees. I can wrap my arms around. Okay, and if I can do lotus, I can even put my legs in a lotus. Now again, I am trusting you to know your body and your limits. Okay, so choose one of those that seems appropriate for you, and then I'm going to get into the use of the props for anyone who's newer or less familiar. So the props are used in one of two main ways. One, are intense. For more intensity, usually we're sitting on something like this block, but it could be a blanket or a bolster, and that's just allowing gravity to pull me forward and down more aggressively. Okay? Not saying it's going to work for everybody, but that is one way to create a little more intensity. The other way is just the opposite. It's too intense. And so we might use a block under the forehead like this. A little bit of support. I still need to feel the stretch in my back. Otherwise, what's the point? What are we doing here? We are trying to stretch the back. This is a spine series. So we need to have a little bit of stretch back there. Okay? Another way to use the support would be like this, under the forearms. I do want to mention, if you're in butterfly, you can play around with the position of your feet a little bit. Further out, closer in. Also, supporting the knees with the blocks is a pretty common modification that people do in this posture. Perfectly fine. Okay, we're just relaxing and again letting the back of the spine stretch. Those are the main variations for the props that we would do in this particular posture. Now again, I would recommend, if you don't feel you need the props, then don't use them. Okay, Yin Yoga and restorative yoga are different practices. They have a different intention. So this is a form of exercise. It's not a workout. Okay, so what I'm calling a workout is something where you're sweating and burning calories, right? Not every type of exercise is a workout, right? There are finger exercises. There are neck exercises. Not all of these things are going to burn a ton of calories. So exercise is good for the brain, it's good for our heart, it's good for our body to exercise, to work the tissues. And by doing that, we try and make them stronger. All right? So we are doing 5-minute holds, even though it's a shorter sequence. I still am trying to give you the full time in each of these positions. All right? So this is just sort of, again, sort of an abbreviated version of what I would normally do for the spine series. So we're a little more than halfway through. Again, if a question comes up or a concern, just put that in the comment box and I will try and get to it. Otherwise, just hang out. We've got a few more minutes. If you want to put on some gentle music in the background, that's fine. We can't hear you here. And I'll let you know when it's time to come back out of it. Okay, so we're going to gradually make our way out of there. We'll come back onto our back and just rebound for a few moments. All right, let's bring our legs in. We'll give them a squeeze. Shake it off just a little bit of movement. And then let's hinge down. So hands under the hips, legs go up straight. If there's any pain in your back, you bend your knees till that pain goes away. Lift the head and neck up. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, lower the legs toward the ground. And then just before they touch, pause. Take a deep breath and exhale, relax on your back. Let's do the banana pose next to get into the sideways movement of the spine. Let's move our hips over to the right side of the mat. Take our left leg out to the left. We'll cross the right over the left. And then reaching up, grabbing the right wrist with the left hand, you might need to wiggle yourself over. Okay, sort of like I did, using your head and your shoulders. And what we want to feel is a stretch here. Okay? Now there isn't much use for the props in this position. I will mention though that sometimes this arm can either be in pain or it can tingle, which is a nerve impingement, which is not something you want to encourage. So if your arm is tingling, you're going to find another position for that arm, maybe over here, maybe down here, but you want to position the arm without losing the stretch in your side. Okay? Now again, if you're having trouble with that, let me know in the comments, describe what's happening, and I'll try my best to give you a hand. Otherwise, the power of the practice comes from simply holding the postures over a prolonged period of time. Whether the posture feels great or not is really beside the point. It does need to feel safe. So this is a point that I often emphasize when I teach, is the pose both needs to feel safe, which means you don't sense that you're somehow hurting your body by doing this. And again, that's a very personal thing. And it's not necessarily something that we are always right about. Sometimes you might feel like, ooh, this is dangerous for me. And actually, a physical therapist might tell you, no, actually, this is what's going to lead to you making a full recovery from your injury. So this is important to understand. I know it can be a difficult concept to fully grasp, because we often think something that feels bad or something that feels uncomfortable, that's bad for us. Okay? That's only true some of the time. Okay? That's just a fact. I'm not making that up. I'm not telling you that because I want you to do things that are dangerous for you. It's just a fact that sometimes things that are highly therapeutic, that can lead to growth and healing, are difficult. They feel uncomfortable. So this pose doesn't tend to be one of those poses that causes a lot of problems for people. But you never know. It might be. And so again, rather than give up on the pose completely, if you feel that it is unsafe, communicate that to me and I will try and help you. Even if I can't help you right now, we could do a virtual meeting later and we could go over some options, hopefully in an environment where I could get some feedback, some visual feedback, so maybe like a Zoom type meeting. All right, I'm not really that concerned with payment and whatnot at this time. If you are someone who's laid off, you haven't gotten your benefits, I hear you, because there's a lot of people in the same boat So, don't worry about those types of things. If you can pay, great. If not, I'd rather just give you a hand and help you out. Okay? So we've got just about 1.5 minutes left here. The other part of what I talked about, other than safety, is effectiveness. And how do we know the pose is effective? Well, we can feel it. We feel some sensation in our left side, or our right side, sorry. So we need to keep these two. This is sort of the yin and yang of safety and effectiveness, if you will. If I'm too careful when practicing yoga, I'm probably not as effective as I could be. I'm not getting as much out of my practice as I could be. And then if I'm too daring, if I'm always pushing the boundary, and I know yogis like this, they think they always need to be pushing the boundary of what their body can do and what's possible. If I do that, then I greatly increase the risk of injuring myself. If not today, which is very often not the case. We don't injure ourselves badly in yoga by pushing ourselves one time. It's usually by pushing ourselves on a regular basis over and over again that we create the really nasty injuries in yoga. Okay? So again, it's not a bad thing every now and then to push and see what's possible, right? Because that's probably not going to create a really bad injury. You might tweak something a little bit. That's okay every now and then. We don't want to be too afraid to try to make mistakes. And like I said, very often the serious injuries come from doing that over, and over again. How much is too much? That is an excellent question for us to ask ourselves when we practice yoga. All right, let's come back to a neutral position. Our 5 minutes is up in that one. What do we feel in our back, right? Or other parts of our body for that matter. We want to just notice for a moment. We'll do the rebounds a little differently in this sequence. Probably not quite as long because the whole session isn't quite as long. Let's move our hips now over to the left side. And we'll take the right leg out to the right. Again, exactly how far, that's up to you, your body, crossing this leg over. Now, what I would like is already to feel some stretch in my left side. Okay, so if I don't feel anything here, then maybe I didn't take that leg far enough. Reaching up, grabbing the left wrist. Again, I can wiggle myself over, increasing the lengthening here. So what's happening here is our ribs are being pulled away from the hips, okay, the crest of the hip. And there are muscles that attach there. And so we're stretching those muscles. Now, in today's sequence, it's not so much about the stretch. The stretch is great. It's very good for you, and I do recommend, that you stretch your muscles, and we are doing that. But you might say that our intention today, because we're focused on the spine, unlike last week's sequence where it was more the torso, you might feel like, well, these are very similar. They are, because we can't isolate muscle from joints and bone. There's always going to be an interplay there. And so we feel the stretch in our obliques on the left side. That's the name of that group. And the obliques consist of, the way that I consider that group is the transverse abdominis, internal obliques, external obliques, and the quadratus lumborum. For me, that's really what we're talking about there, stretching those muscles. So those muscles are being lengthened, but our intention is to move the spine so that the vertebrae on the left side are being pulled apart. What's that going to do for us? Well, between each vertebrae is what's called soft tissue. So soft tissue is like muscle, skin, and connective tissue. And so this particular type of soft tissue is connective tissue. It's made up of mostly, if not all, collagen fibers, which is a type of protein. Okay, so the collagen fibers are they are being stretched, they are being pulled, they are being exercised, right? And what do we intend when we exercise any part of our body? Our intention is to make the tissues stronger, to make them healthier, to make them more resilient to injury. Okay? And so that's what we're trying to do here with our spine. And this is a very good use of our time, because the current statistics that I'm aware of anyway are that about 80% of Americans end up with back problems sooner or later. So since last year, I've been having my own back problems. I had, some of you know, I had to move really without any warning. I had a problem with my apartment, and the people that I rent from, they said, you know, go ahead and move into this other apartment. But they were like, you need to be in there by the end of the week, basically. So I was still working. I didn't have time to cancel all my teaching engagements so I could move. I didn't have anything packed, you know, nothing was prepared. And so I spent a week and a half or so just picking up box after box and walking it across my apartment complex to this other apartment and dropping it off there, and then going to work, and then coming back and doing more of that, going to the donation center, dropping as much off as I could. Anyway, that did a number on my back. Now, even though that was the case, I'm going to say that probably my back was not as healthy as it could be. Otherwise, it probably would not have been injured from that. Now, you might be saying, well, Doug, you know, you're a yoga teacher, you should have a healthy back. And you're right. And I actually might have a much healthier back than most. So if I had done that and I were maybe the average person my age, maybe I would have had to go to the hospital. So I never had to go to the hospital. I was in a lot of pain. And I began to do therapy on my back, some of the same poses we're doing today. Except I would hold them a lot longer because I was doing therapy. All right, and that's not something I want you to do, but that is what I did, and my back got a whole lot better. And is it 100%? I don't think so. I think I can get there, but it might require me to do some other steps to really fully recover the health of my back. But I'll still have those, you know, days where it doesn't feel so great. It's much, much, much better than it was, and I can pretty much do everything that I want to do. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to be completely pain-free. I really don't want to have it where, you know, certain movements, if I do them, I can feel pain in my back. Right now, I feel fine, but I know there are days when it bothers me more. All right, let's unwind from our banana, and we will come back to a neutral position. And let's just rest for a few moments. Again, that's our rebound. All right, let's bring our legs in. We'll give them a little squeeze. Shake it out, move around, stretch it out. And let's hinge up. So again, hands under hips, legs go up. If there's any pain in your back, you bend your knees. Otherwise, legs straight, lift the head and neck, take a deep breath, exhale, lower the legs to the ground, hover, inhale, pop the legs up. Exhale all the way up to seated. Okay, here comes the most challenging part of our practice. Again, I'm going to give you several quick options, okay? Because I want you to get into the posture that you're going to do. And I'm going to start the timer, and then we'll go into more detail about, you know, the different choices that you have, okay? So the first choice I'm going to mention is probably the easiest, which is Sphinx position, okay? Fairly straightforward, simple back bend. This can be done with your shoulders depressed or relaxed, head held up, dropped forward, or dropped back. Your arms can be straight or bent. You can prop your elbows up on something. The legs can be together or apart. Okay? That's the Sphinx or the seal position. The other choice is going to be the saddle pose, sitting on your heels, between your heels, on a block that is between the heels, with your feet pointed back or out to the sides. If you feel a lot of stretching in your thighs, you're going to stay right there. If you don't, you can lower back onto your hands, elbows, crown of the head, bolster, or all the way back onto your back. Okay, I've started the timer, so I want you to be in one of those positions, again, unless you feel that you're in immediate danger. And then we can take a little more time to look at prop use. So prop use tends to be more common in the saddle pose. So slowing things down a little bit, let's look at, again, common problems for students. One is the ankles. So this is could be due to inflexibility, and that inflexibility could be due to lifestyle, or it could be genetic. So if my feet or ankles hurt, this is one solution. I roll up a blanket, put my ankle joint directly over that blanket, and pad my feet and ankles. If it's not so much the ankle, but just the feet, then I don't have to roll the blanket. I could do this, just adding a little bit of extra padding, okay? Again, I could be sitting on my heels, but I could also sit between them. And another problem for people is the knees. So my knee is at pretty much maximum flexion here. And if I have certain kinds of issues with my knees, that could create problems. So there are a couple things you can try. One is sitting up on something like a block, right? That reduces the flexion at the knee joint. I could even put a couple of blocks like this, right? Now again, if I'm feeling this intense stretch here, that's enough for today. You may not think that the front of your thighs have anything to do with your back, but they absolutely do. Okay, we're not going to get into why that is or what the relationship is, but if these are tight, that is going to affect the overall long-term health of your back. All right, so you stretching these out does have something to do with the spine and the health of our spine. Now, some people find that, okay, I don't feel the stretch here, but as I begin to go back, I can start to feel the stretch, or I start to feel my back, but this is just awkward, right? It can be awkward to hold yourself up like this for 5 minutes. So a very common modification is to use a bolster. Right, you come back onto your back like so, support yourself. You could have something under your head. I would probably use a blanket, but you could use a block, even support your head there if your neck feels sensitive. And again, this isn't restorative, so we aren't just trying to make ourselves as completely comfortable as we could be. We're trying to stretch the front of these thighs, or if we come far enough back to actually work the SI joint, and you would just feel that as sensation in your back. The last thing I want to mention here looks like this. I call this the yoga lazy boy. It's kind of like a yoga recliner. And this is if you can't get very far back, but you need or want some support, you can do it that way. And you have to be careful with positioning the block, because if you don't do it properly, it comes out from behind you and you can actually kind of fall back. All right. So I know that seems like a lot of information, and it is. If we were in person, I could see all of you, and I knew you, and I knew your practice a little better, then I might not even mention all that stuff because it may not be necessary. But in the virtual world where I'm teaching, I don't have no idea who's on the other end of this um, stream that I'm doing, and I don't know who will see it later or in the future. I'm trying to cover most, if not all, the bases in terms of what problems you might encounter. So hopefully you didn't need any of that, because generally that would mean that you're a little healthier, you're in good shape. It's not a one for one, so it doesn't mean that if you can't do that, that automatically means you're unhealthy. Could mean you have a unique body in some way, that maybe your body is restricted in certain movements. That might very well mean that you have more facility with other movements. It's very often how it happens, but not always. All right, please take your time. There are generally 3 ways out of that. One is to roll onto one side and free your legs. The other is to push yourself up so you're seated and then to free your legs. And the final one is while laying on your back, you simply pull your legs out from underneath you. If you don't think that's possible, it definitely is. I'll show you, because that's how I get out of the pose usually. So if you were on your back like this, you just release the legs one at a time. Okay, so whichever way we get out of it, we're back on our back and we're just relaxing for a few moments. Good. Now let's bring our legs in. We'll give them a squeeze. Just going to shake off any lingering discomfort there as best as we can. This is the leg cradle, and most of you, I think, know, especially those of you who've practiced with me before, there's no one way. You don't have to do what I'm doing. Do whatever feels right in your body at this moment. Okay, and then we're going to finish with the twisted roots. So we take our right knee over our left. You can lock the ankles if you want, but you don't have to. They could be like that. I just like doing that. You might also just want to shift your hips over. It depends on how much room you've got over here. So I don't have much room. I got this wall here, so I'm going to shift over to the right side. And then I drop my knees to the right as I extend my arm, or to the left as I extend my arm to the right. Okay? So coming out into this pose here. And this is the twisted roots again. Very common yin posture. Now again, we'll talk a little bit about variations and the props here. So you could take a block and place that under your knees. You could put a blanket under your shoulder, but you don't have to. Okay, once again, it's not inherently dangerous to let gravity be pulling on your limbs here. You don't have to support them. It could be dangerous for certain body types or certain people with certain injuries. But there are different philosophies around these types of ideas. And, I like to respect wherever someone's coming from with these things. But my philosophy is, and again, you don't have to agree. Not everyone has to take yoga with me, thankfully, right? People can do yoga with me if they enjoy it, if they get something from it, if they like my approach, and if they don't, there are plenty of other people out there. But my feeling is that we should not teach yoga as though everyone is injured or broken. Because that really limits what we can do. There are a lot of people, especially in modern cultures like ours, who are injured. They've got all kinds of problems. And what I see happening is many teachers end up modifying what they say is safe because they find that there's so many people that have the same injuries in their classes. For me, I'd rather just address those people with the injuries and say, if you've got this injury or this problem, do this. But I don't want to prevent a healthy person from using their full capacity. And if I teach a healthy person like I teach someone who's injured, then that's exactly what I'm doing. If I'm assuming you've got some injury in your back, so I don't teach you a deep back bend that you could do safely, then I'm basically limiting you. And over time, that may very well result in you ending up getting less and less healthy, because part of what we want to do with exercise is to break out of the normal confines that we find ourselves in during our workday. So modern life really limits us in the range of motion that we use, the types of motion that we use, and all of these types of things. So again, doing a deep twist like I have you doing now, we're hopefully doing something that we would not have done if we weren't taking this class. Think about your day. How often are you doing a deep twist with your spine? If you're like most people, chances are not very often. Okay, so we're about halfway through this, a little bit more than that. And again, for those of you that might be a little newer to Yin or to my classes, we want to try to hold it. I know that can be extremely challenging for some people. You want to move the whole time, you want to wiggle around, you want to come out of it when it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And again, safety and discomfort are different. Okay, in your own mind, I want you to make that distinction between I'm actually not safe versus I'm just uncomfortable. Okay? Because safety is super important. I don't want you to hurt yourself. All right? So if you think you're in danger, doesn't matter if we just came into the pose, you come out of it. You come out of it, you let me know, and we'll try and find something that you can do safely. But, oh, I don't like this pose. This is uncomfortable. This doesn't feel good. I'm going to come out of it. That's a little different, right? So in your own mind, I want you to have that distinction. Because a lot of times we quit not because we're actually in danger, not because we're actually at our limit. A lot of times we quit just because we're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too uncomfortable. And what we find as we go deeper into yoga, into things like meditation, is confronting that which is difficult or uncomfortable yields a huge bounty for us. It really can bring us experiences and understanding, knowledge, and peace and joy that we really didn't know was even possible, beyond what we thought was possible, beyond anything we've ever experienced before. So again, I have to encourage you to, in your own mind, draw that distinction between discomfort and pain. And it can be fluid. You might change your mind, right? Uncomfortable versus not safe. Something you thought wasn't safe, one day you might be like, you know what, I think I can do that. Other way can be as well. You're doing something you thought was okay, and then over time you're like, you know what, I think I'm actually damaging my body doing this. All right, let's switch sides, everyone. So we're going to unwind from that. And then we come back in. We're going to take that left leg over the right. Again, you don't have to lock the ankles. We're coming down to the other side. All right. Now feel free to play around with the position of your knees or your arm. That can make a huge difference in how intense the posture feels, where you feel the pose. Generally with your knees closer to your abdomen, it moves the intensity, the locus of the what's happening in your spine higher up your spine. With your knees down lower, it moves it down into the sacral or lumbar region, and it can be less intense that way, less full of a twist. And as I often try and point out when I'm teaching, more is not always better. So I want you to notice right now, are you thinking, oh, if I do a deeper twist, that's better? Well, who said that? Who told you that? Again, this is a very common assumption that we make in our culture, that more is better. Let me ask you a question. Do you think if you had more money in your bank, it would be better? We almost all assume that, don't we? More money would be better. But do we actually know that that's true? If we look at people who have a lot of money, is everyone who has a lot of money, are they a role model for us? Do you think that maybe in some instances the fact that they had so much money is part of what made them who they are? And now I'm not saying money is the root of evil or anything like that, but maybe the case is for some of us that if we had more money, we would not grow spiritually nearly as much as we would with less money. So again, these are the types of things that we often don't investigate. More money equals good. Less money equals bad. And this shows up in yoga. Deeper pose is good. Deeper stretch is good. Less stretch, bad. More flexibility, good. Less flexibility, bad. Well, you're not going to hear that out of my mouth, okay? Very intentionally. Again, these are things that we need to be very careful about, because otherwise we can end up really beating our bodies up and really pushing ourselves. And what do we expect is going to happen? What happens when you get yourself into that contortion that you've been working to get in? You might feel very good doing it. You might, very often when we push the body far enough, it releases certain kinds of endorphins and chemicals into the bloodstream. It can be really intense for the body to be kind of twisted up in a pretzel. And so we might feel very good, but how is that inherently different from feeling good after drinking a bottle of wine or doing heroin for that matter? Is it really, it's chemicals in the blood? Okay, it's natural, but those experiences come and go, don't they? Doing heroin, a line of cocaine, drinking, getting drunk, or doing a yoga class and twisting myself up, getting a bunch of endorphins going. That's going to come and it's going to go. Yoga on a deeper level is about that which doesn't come and doesn't go, what is called our true nature. And so all of our practices, if we are working in the right way, are pointing us toward that which is already always present, not an experience that comes and goes. Because I don't care how deep or how great an experience is, it will have a start, it will last a certain amount of time, and then it will go away. So again, if I'm pushing my body, pushing myself, what do I think I'm going to get by doing that? Am I going to get famous? Am I going to get money? Am I going to get adoration? Am I going to have the teacher pat me on the back? What am I looking to get from that? And again, these are the types of things that we want to become aware of. Okay, as yogis, yoga is really about awareness, folks. And people don't like hearing that. I've gotten people who, say nasty things to me, and they want to say, no, it's just about the practice. It's not about awareness. It's not. Well, that's not what my teachers taught me. So you can go argue with them, but I'm in complete agreement with them. It's not about a posture. It's not about a sequence. It's not about becoming more flexible. It's not about having other people admire us. Okay, it's about something beyond all of those things. All right, let's unwind. Coming back onto your back. And just rebound for a few moments. Again, we had a little bit of a late start today, which I'm going to apologize for. I keep trying to work all the kinks out, but as I said at the beginning, this is high-tech stuff. And high-tech, sometimes you don't work the kinks out. Sometimes you just can't. They're just there. So things that are supposed to work, they just don't. And so I apologize. The image quality is probably a little lower today. The sound quality is lower. I've been trying to raise the bar, but I can't fix this technology. I'm trying to work the kinks out. So anyway, hopefully next week we'll be back to full quality, but I hope you enjoyed that. Take a few minutes to relax on your back. We did about, I think, 40 minutes or so. So maybe 4 minutes is good. But even better is just to relax and not have a timer and just wait for you to sort of naturally come back. If there are any questions, hit me up here on Facebook. Thanks, Barb. It's great to see you. I'll be back tomorrow with a Yoga Nidra, lunchtime Yoga Nidra. We won't have the same types of technical issues because it's a less complex setup, so we should be able to start on time tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Who knows, right? Who knows? All right, good, Sammy. I think it's fine. I just think not as good as the other way if you compare them. But I'm a stickler, so probably no one else notices. All right, everyone. Namaste. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy. Great seeing you. Let's do this again tomorrow, and have a wonderful day. Bye.